to survive in another country without speaking their language.
I'm using
Really?
monotone. You're using monotone. So, why not? Let's try
Okay.
it. And then we put a Google translator in between. No,
Okay.
that's not how it works.
Okay, that's funny. But is that really true? As international talents, we constantly have to deliver our messages as best as possible. But even if we know every right word to speak, there's one thing that could still stop us from getting our message across the road.
Communication.
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 Communicate.
Communicate.
Communication.
Great communication.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
When it comes to communication in an international environment, everyone has more questions than answers. And that's why I brought you, this guy.
At the end of the day, regardless how advanced technology, how great the communication tools that we have, you're working with people.
This is Jarvis. He is the newest video podcaster who wants to empower your communication skill. He gave us the backstage pass to the art of influence and connection in the international dynamic environment.
First one is be curious. You gotta have the capability of asking why. Second point, you always have to be not afraid to fail. Just go out, meet people who are diverse background, or just don't get along with the comfort zones you already have. If you're an expat or digital nomad already studying or working abroad, or aspiring to become one, I want to congratulate you first because it takes an insane amount of courage to take the leap of faith and leave your comfort zone behind. Living life in between takes lots of skills, and how to communicate and sell yourself in a new place is a huge one. So I have a small favor to ask, and you don't have to do it now, but if you ever felt any part of this podcast resonate with you or is helpful for you later, please hit the like and subscribe button regardless of which platform you're tuning in right now. It means a lot to me, and you will keep getting new great stories coming up in the future. So thank you. And now let's start the journey. Heidi, you're here today with me in this studio. And what is your first impression when I brought to you this concept that I want to do a podcast with you in person regarding communications and psychology?
Well, actually, ever since you invited me for your first season, I actually don't remember which episode I was in. But anyway, when you invited me to do the podcast with you, I was thinking, okay, so the Jarvis in my head back in high school is kind of like the weird kind of guy,
Right.
Well, I should say boy in the class. You were nice. You're a nice guy, but you weren't that kind of eloquent type in class. You know how to do a lot of birthday cards. You were capable of writing a lot of words in the birthday cards to me, but seeing you doing podcasts, being very communicative right now is kind of a totally different version of you.
I thought I was being creative, even though I'm
Yeah,
shy.
you were creative and shy at the same time in a
Right.
weird way.
In a weird way, fair enough.
Yeah, back in high school, you weren't that communicative. So right now, seeing that you've been through a lot, you have a lot of experience under your belt, I was kind of, I was amazed, to be honest, the first time we get to reconnect. Yeah, so I'm kind of interested in knowing, the process during which you kind of evolve and develop into a more communicative and culturally sensitive guy.
That's a long story, I would say. I remember I was in insurance sales around 2014-ish. I was doing insurance sales for around 3 to 5 years. And that kind of have the experiences allowing me to push myself to be more communicative. Also try to understand how to build trust and deliver values to strangers, people who you might know, who you know really well and are not really well. And I decided I don't want to do the insurance sales for the rest of my life.
You need something fresh.
At least, yeah, exactly. I don't mind doing sales because I like sales. I like people. I like communication. But I don't want to do insurance for the rest of my life. So I decided to try to work abroad.
Okay.
And since I speak English fairly well, and I decided why not? I should go to somewhere that speaks English, or at least an international environment.
And that's why you decided to go, pursue a further study in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like the second step of my transforming.
So how's life there in Germany?
It's really interesting, to be honest, because like, Germany doesn't speak English, they speak German.
Okay.
But what I noticed, the biggest difference versus when I was in Taiwan is that they are really open-minded because they have so many nationalities in Europe, not just in Germany. You have to
Right.
consider Europe as it's a area that people might come from France, come from Italy, Portugal, Spain, and they probably just working in Germany for 1 or 2 years
So like
or
a
so.
diverse background.
It's really diverse, and
Yeah.
then sometimes you might think they look like Asians, but they'll probably get nationality of German. They probably have German passport.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And even some Turkish people, they will be like, they're already immigrated like generations before, so they are already as a German.
So it's really difficult for you to tell which one is from which country and their cultural background.
Yeah, so that's like before, let's say, before I was visiting Germany or studying or working there, we would normally have the stereotype that when we see the person like, oh, you are Asian, or you're like Japanese, you're like Koreanese, and
Right.
or that is American as long as it's white, or it might be a black, right? Like we
Yeah.
have this stereotype built in for such a long time, but they're just like totally different. It's like they might look differently, but you just don't assume they are from where they're supposed to look like, right?
So based on this, I suppose it's very different from the way you communicate with your clients back in Taiwan.
Exactly. So back in Taiwan, I just have to talk to, average Asians
Yeah.
and average Taiwanese, not Asians, have to be careful of the words. And then so that's a huge mindset shift, right? Like you try to collaborate with people from Western Europe, Eastern Europe. You try to study, try to, work with them.
Right.
And you just, you drop everything that you know behind and then you start to relearn.
Okay.
And that also level up my understanding of communication. It's just not like sales pitch. It's just not like direct, bold, creative. Sometimes it's more like a understanding, empathy, and you just need to listen.
So elevating your game to an international level, like in an international context, this is quite a very, a different experience to you. So care to explain a little bit the differences when you are communicating in Taiwan and when you were trying to engage with, other speakers in Germany?
I have so many experiences, put it that way, right? Like I try to build my own startup with my co-founder who is from Iran. Like
Wow.
he's Iranian and he's a developer.
Okay.
And I also work with German startup founders. I try to be a video operator and, editors that help them do the marketing materials. And I just like engage with a lot of persons professionally or casually. But basically, those experiences allow me to
Like break new grounds?
try to, yeah, exactly. You refresh your software in your mind and say, oh, it works like that last time, but this time, if you use the same methodology, it's not going to work the same way. And that's like how I try to put myself in a very multiple weird scenario. I hang out a lot. I drink a lot with friends, with people. It's very common to drink beers after work, right? Like that's what it's famous for.
Right.
And basically, that's how I try to push myself into that level of being communicative.
So you mentioned that sometimes you figure out that the same approach just doesn't work. So you have to find another way to engage with the new group of people.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're trying to be culturally sensitive, or is what are other factors that make you think this approach just didn't work?
It's really hard to say verbally, but it's just kind of like you have this sixth sense, or you can just, as the word they say, the vibe, right? That you can
Okay.
kind of understand the vibe. Like, is it proper to do this? Is it inappropriate to say this? And it might be appropriate to say this in Taiwan, like when I was hanging out with friends, but like
Right.
it might not be very appropriate to speak with people from different backgrounds. So it's a little bit trial and error, but
Okay.
it's you just have to try it and see it,
How it
get your
goes.
feet wet, and
Okay.
then see whether you're being accepted or not accepted. I
Right.
mean, it's really depends on the context.
Yeah, the,
right?
the reason why I ask you this is that, in Taiwan, based on my teaching experience, I've been teaching in, English department. And a lot of students and also my student from the cram school, they are, aspiring to get a position or get their further studies overseas. So for them, I believe they will want to one day work in an international context. They want to live in another country. So to become culturally sensitive can be quite a challenging matter for them. Yeah, so I think
agree.
based on your experience, you can probably share some of your stories with them to kind of help them guide them through the process of becoming a person who is very culturally literate.
Well, it's really hard to just by listening to one podcast and you suddenly become like a very communicative and
Yeah,
culturally
for sure,
sensitive,
yeah.
right? You just have to build by time, to be honest. And I won't say only having the experiences while I was in Germany is already enough. To be honest, I would say you also needed to have the time to work with people because at the end of the day, regardless how advanced technology, how great the communication tools that we have,
Yeah.
you're working with people. So people skills plus like this cultural sensitive, you still have to go out there and explore.
Yeah.
And my number one rules for myself when I was in Germany is like I tried not to hang out with a bunch of Asian guys or a group of people because we tend to be very comfortable in an environment that we look similar, we
Right.
use the same language, and then you don't have the chances to explore to speak in English or even speak in German, put it that way. German is their national language, of course. English is like acceptable second language. And so if you think about that, most German, even though they speak English, they sometimes will still want to feel comfortable to speak in German. Right?
Okay.
And so you have to hang out with people who are very open-minded. So for me, as an example, I like to hang out with people who want to build startups, who want to build something that's cool and creative.
Okay.
And you will notice that English is just like not their mother tongue. They are mostly their
Like the tool.
second. Yeah, exactly. That's the second language.
Right.
So for me, English is also my second language. So when you hang out with people, we're a bunch of people who are from different backgrounds using English as a second language. Then you have to, start to take step by step to develop how to communicate, how to deliver your ideas and communicate the message
Yes.
properly.
So you said the first thing you do is to hang out with these startup guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm kind of wondering. So when you're hanging out with them, what's the first lesson you learn from talking with these people? What's the crucial elements of talking to a group of people from an international context in an international setting?
Well, having beer definitely helped. That's first thing. Alcohol loosen up like all the social rational thinking that you have or this awkwardness in your mind. But on the other side, beside alcohol, if you're non-alcohol drinkers, first, if you don't know what to say, listen. Listen is something that I found profoundly helpful.
Okay.
For example, in this startup world that when I was in Munich, I hang out with like engineers who are studying in TUM,
Okay.
Technischen Universität München, and also like LMU. They all are super smart.
Okay.
And a lot of them are actually developer engineers, and I don't know jack shit about coding. So when they're talking about, oh, this is so cool, this is da, I cannot follow up. So what I do is listen. And I try to like understand what they're talking about, and then you will start to follow their logic, then you will able to be, oh, that's cool. I kind of understand what you're talking about. And you start to like jump into the conversation, right?
Okay.
And sometimes it's a one-on-one, sometimes like to pitch to a bunch of people. And you will realize that when you start to communicate to a bunch of people, how vague your message if you are not aware what you are delivering. That's like also a huge challenge for me. I'm not perfect. But I have been to those scenarios that we did this, after work. We go there, grab a beers, and everybody just like take turn, pitch their ideas in front of 50 people, 100 people. And then they start to like practice pitching, they start to like share their ideas and see if they could find their co-founders, developers, or even potential investors.
So listen is one of the crucial skills when you try to do this cross-cultural communication.
Yes, you gotta shut up.
Okay.
You
So
gotta shut up and then you listen.
Okay, and part of the reason is to avoid like conflict or misunderstanding.
No, well, that's another topic. We can also bring that up later. I won't say it's not avoiding conflict, because like cultural difference, some people will prefer direct one-on-one conflict.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree. Some people, for us, for example, we don't like,
We avoid conflict.
we avoid conflict. Put it
Yeah.
that way. We don't like to like say, "Oh, you're wrong." We also say, "Yeah, you're right. You're perfect. You're beautiful." But like you say something at the back, right?
Well, right now you are sounding so effortless. Like it's been clear to me that you have so much experience already. But this kind of reminds me of one, dispiriting experience back in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had my first job in Canada.
Right.
Yeah, and that's really a special experience for me. But I got the first customer complaint there as well. There's one time when I was chasing a customer and saying that I accidentally put an eyebrow pencil in her bag.
Right.
But I was also doing the makeup with another client, so I had to get it back so that I can finish the makeup on the other client's face, right? So I chased and I looked for the woman in the mall, and I eventually located her. She's just at the Mac counter, and I asked her for the eyebrow pencil back. And after 3 days, I got a customer complaint, and I think that was her who complained about my service.
That's your assumption, though.
Yeah, I didn't know, but I think it was her. But then I talked to my manager saying I want to figure out what's happening. What did I did wrong? And she said, well, it's nothing. Just let it go. Yeah, she asked me just to let it go without telling me what happened exactly. So I guess it has something to do with miscommunication or the maybe my behavior that wasn't showing enough respect that somehow offended the customer.
I mean, definitely you can see customer complaint as another way of communication.
Yeah.
Actually, in business, client complaints, that's actually better than they don't complain at all, right? Because like...
Because you get to learn something.
No, yeah. First of all, that's the first point. The second thing is that they do care, so they complain, right? If they don't care, they don't give a fuck, they just walk away, right? But like, to be honest, in my understanding, I don't think you did anything wrong. It's just like probably you're multitasking and you're not aware to, deliver your message properly. You didn't speak up.
Yeah, so that's why I'm hoping that you can give us some insight also to our listeners as well. Sometimes we may not be aware of the thing that we did unconsciously. Maybe it's the pat on the shoulder, or maybe the eye gaze that kind of trigger that misunderstanding. So I believe you had tons of experience.
Nah, I won't say I have tons of experiences, but I totally get where that comes from. I'm just assuming it's just one of the experiences that you will face as a person, as a service sector. You will see somebody who just like doesn't like you at all, then they will file the complaint, right?
Yeah.
But on the other side, I do believe in those dynamic environment contexts or situations, you cannot be perfect, but as long as you're aware and you learn something from it, then you'll be like, maybe I didn't communicate it good enough, or maybe I didn't respect her good enough in her own understanding, even though you don't feel like it. But you still learn something, right? And I think that's the most important thing, that you get away something out of it, instead of like struggling like what did I do wrong, because like you're not gonna be perfect
Okay.
for the rest of your life. I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, so besides listening, be an attentive listener, what are some other things that you would say are the important lessons you have to take if you want to work in an international setting?
This is also pretty cool experiences I had. I was working in Texas Instrument in Freising, which is like the north side country of Munich. And in Freising office of Texas Instrument is considered as the EMEA headquarters. EMEA represent as Europe, Middle East, and Africa. But to be honest, most of us are handling the communication and digital marketing content, message regarding Europeans. So like Italy, Israel, France, right?
Okay.
Even like Eastern Europe, like Portland, Czech Republic.
Okay.
Right. So it's pretty interesting that I'm able to do my internship there for a year. After the COVID started to like get eased up, I was able to go to the office, go to the headquarters there, and then meet people Some are German, of course, because it's Germany, and some are definitely not German. And even my boss, like he's from UK, but he has been already immigrated to the Germany as well. So are you gonna say he's a British or he's German? You don't know, right? He might have a British heart, but like he's not. He's definitely on the passport-wise, he's German.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a pretty cool experiences, and then I get to know a lot of more people from diverse background. Besides, like what I mentioned previously is like hanging out with people, just like casual environment. In that context, it's like a professional, dynamic, diverse cultural backgrounds, and sometimes being politically correct or carefully articulate your message is very important.
Okay.
And especially we are the Department of Communication. We send out emails that broadcast into entire EMEA region.
Yeah.
You have to be careful to not to left out some people, for example, or overemphasize specific group of people. So you want to be very balanced
Okay.
and respectful.
Okay.
Plus, like an extra point, right now we have this gender equality and diverse gender. You can be he or she, or you can identify whatever you want. So you also have to be very careful about you don't just specific addressing specific gender. I learned, especially that before you communicate it, you have to know who you're communicating about.
So know your target audience.
Know who you're talking to.
Okay.
That's the first important key things, right? If you're, let's say, one-on-one right now, I kind of know you, and we both have a similar group of backgrounds. Of course, we can assume something, right? We don't assume everything, but we can assume something.
Right.
So we can have some pieces here and there. But in the broadcast environment, you sometimes just don't have any good ideas of where they come from, what are their expectations from your message.
Right. So when this is the situation, how do you handle this?
Well, for example, you got to be very polite, and you have to be very patient.
Okay.
Because, as I said, sometimes English is just everybody's second language. Even though some people are capable of speaking English, doesn't mean that they understand every English word correctly in the way that you try to express it.
Okay.
So, and plus, like, there's a lot of slang and there's like a lot of representations, right? So, be aware that in those settings, professional settings, you have to be also very polite and patient. Like, be more communicative, repeat the way, make it easier to understand, and be affirmative. This is the message instead of like being very vague, right? But like I believe if you're a German audience, you will argue that German is way more descriptive. Descriptive than in English, because like English sometimes is so confusing. I would say the same in Chinese. Chinese is like even more confusing.
Okay.
Because like Chinese, we have this like high context word that it might sound the same, but it doesn't mean the same words.
Okay.
But anyhow.
Well, being indirect.
Yeah, we're very good at that. Yeah. So know your target audience. That's like kind of what I think is really important. That's the first step.
Quick 2 cents. I want to introduce you to the sponsor of this episode. Just another really valuable, intriguing story. Professional photography, videography, shooting, and editing services for interviews, podcasts, exhibitions, and company events. As a millennial content creator transitioning to Gen Z's role of communication, I can't stress enough how important it is for brands to communicate their values and beliefs to the younger generation through videos and storytelling. Everyone has a fantastic phones to take photos, film videos, and share them on social media. But how does your content stand out and hold your audience attention? How do you convey values that resonate visually? When capturing footage is so accessible, capturing attention is the ultimate key for brands to keep relevance in the ever-evolving digital sea and fit into the culture. So if you want your stories to be shared and penetrated through all the noises, both verbally and visually, check out jarvis.com and find out more about the services. Thanks for tuning in to this podcast, and now back to the episode.
So for students and for workers currently living in Taiwan who want to immigrate to another country, how do they learn to know their target audience? What are some of the possible ways that they can do to help them understand their target audience more?
Do some research, I guess. That's like kind of...
Google is a friend.
Yeah, Google definitely is one of your friends, but not
Okay.
all of them. Social media, everybody has that. If you don't know a person completely, the best practice is trying to either do some research before and then you try to arrange like a meeting with them one-on-one to know more. It could be in professional, it could be casual, or it could even be in dating, right? So, like for example, in dating world, like that's also how people try to get to know each other. We try to, first having some contact and do some research, and we have our own stereotype or assumption, and then we try to ask people out and then see if it's a fit or the vibe goes well or not.
Okay, and through those process, kind of gather the information you need to form a picture about how to address this group of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then that's why I feel I'm so profound in this psychology and communication, because communication it's one of the key to deliver and also receiving like what you want and what you expected. Meanwhile, you have to also be careful not to on the wrong direction, not to deliver in the wrong direction.
Well, you make me feel like I'm safe just living in Taiwan, because I'm always using the same communicative skills when I engage with other people.
Well, not necessarily. It depends who you hang out with as well, right?
Yeah, but still, you are very versatile. You have to adjust your strategies according to different group of people you're engaging with.
Right. I don't know. It just come from experiences and intuition. I'm lucky enough to have that dynamic environment for me to explore.
Okay.
But also on the other side, you always have choice to put yourself there, right? To put yourself into a high dynamic context, regardless which country you are. You could be hanging out with foreigners if you intend and want to find them, and then you try to like speak them in English, or you want to force them to speak Chinese, which is also fine. I don't know about that part though.
Yeah, so language-wise, we have to be, be a listener first before we make any next move, and then we have to do our research.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I think these are not mechanical first step, second step. It's more like it's a kind of like a direction, right?
It's very dynamic process.
It's very dynamic. You kind of do it a little bit here, do it a little bit there.
Right.
You navigate it through the way.
So to navigate in a culturally diverse context, is language enough, or is there any other strategy we need to look out for?
Well, I would say language definitely is important. You're not expected. I communicate to Germans in Chinese, right? Like I'm using monotone, you're using monotone, so why not? Let's try it, and then we put a Google translator in between. No, that's not how it works. And the second thing is like, okay, if everybody take a step back, that means like you are fine with speaking English, and I'm fine, and I preferably speak in English since my German is still in the development phases. So I would say that's like how everything started. Everybody is trying to, you are not using your monotone, I'm not using my monotone.
Yeah.
And we see if our vibe click. And a lot of times the language is important to say what you want. But in communication, there's also a huge importance is the nonverbal part of communication. Which is nonverbal. So which is like something that you don't speak. It's not like we try to say everything that everybody receive it. Something that's like psychologically or biologically binded back of our head that we don't even realize that. Do we like this person, or how is the vibe going, right?
Okay.
As they say.
Well, can you give us more examples about this nonverbal communication?
Well, nonverbal communication in the it depends on the context, right? It depends on the situation. So dating scenarios, or let's say you hang out with a new friend you just met.
Okay.
And you say, I'm gonna grab a beer with you after work, 4:30. Like you probably just like see each other once, and then you have some conversation, but not too deep. And then now it's the time that you say, I find this person is pretty cool, and then you ask him to come hang out, and then he's fine with it. So a lot of the time you come there, you grab a beer, sit down, and then you start to like navigate it through how everything goes, right? So from eye contact
Okay.
and from I don't know, like if he's in a rush or he's like going somewhere else, will he look at the watch? And whether his reaction to what you're saying is he paying attention or he doesn't really care or he just enjoy himself. A lot of the things that it's not by words, it's by how they behave.
Okay.
And even like how openness. For example, like right now we're both here and we're
Right.
very into this conversation. We're both leaning in.
Yeah.
And then if you are in some scenarios that people just like either get bored, they will start looking watch. That's like everybody understand.
Okay.
Everybody heard of it before, and some people will lean back.
Okay. So
Right.
what does that suggest?
It's either he's feeling comfortable or he could be like
Bored?
don't care.
Okay,
Yeah, just
don't
like,
care.
"Meh, that's cool. Yeah. But
What
like,
about folding your arms?
there's like a lot of definitions. Some people say it's being defensive. Some
Okay.
people say it's comforting themselves. I think in psychology there's not a one direct indicator to express,
Yeah.
but somehow human beings just have these sensitivities that you can kind of know what
Whether
are-
he or she is being defensive.
or he's like open to the conversation. But it also takes practice, right? It's not like we naturally have the talents. We're born and then we can just sense like how you feel. We can read mind. No,
Yeah.
it most like come from experiences and having this like open-minded mentality. Go out there, meet people. Then we have the chance to.
Yeah, just like some
kinda
of
get
the hand
experience.
gestures may be acceptable in Taiwan, but they may be rude to the foreigners.
I mean, you can always be rude by showing your middle finger. That's like universal language. But on the other side, I would say if that would be more on the direction of cultural backgrounds in what gestures means what.
Okay.
Yeah. But to me, I don't have those experiences that I sometimes feel I am being disrespect or like I disrespect some people. I might sometimes hit something accidentally, but
Okay.
people will be joke about it and then you just ha 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 and then you just like have it let
Just
it go.
let it just let it go.
But like you don't want that to happen in like a serious professional environment, right? Or business meetings, for example.
Okay. So would you describe your experience of communicating with other has always been smooth, or you have hit some hard rocks?
Of course, I mean hitting rock all the time and the walls.
Learn things
all
the hard
things.
way.
Yes, I like to learn things the
Yeah,
hard way.
people love that kind of stories. Would you want to share?
No, I mean it's not like there's a specific story for it. It's just like for me, I'm always like pretty weird, but I also would like to do things kind of creative.
Yeah.
And so I try to explore different possibilities. But what I do notice is something very cool. As I say, we're going to come back to this, is the communication style when it comes to Taiwanese versus Germans versus Americans, right? So in a very specific way, in professional settings, let's say, Taiwan, you are also Taiwanese,
Yeah.
jump into comment as you want.
Okay.
We like to say nice things, right? Even
Yeah.
though you hated this person, you say, yeah, that's cool, that's nice. And then, but like, you just don't want to offend that person because like we have been educated from histories or let's say from generations that, you gotta be polite, you gotta be humble, don't express too much about your opinion.
Right.
That's how we told. I don't know. What do you think?
I think according to an old proverb, it says that the less you say, the wiser you get, right? The wise person never say too much.
Yeah, and that's why I'm look dumb all the time, right?
You talk too much.
I talk too much. No, but what I'm saying is we tend to oppress ourselves, not to show our true thoughts, right? And I think that's like how we communicate. We be very polite. We are just like saying nice things all the time. Mean it or not, you are really hard to tell.
Okay. And do the Europeans or do the people you work with in Germany share the same thoughts, like talking,
Well,
saying less?
German, I mean, Texas Instruments is an American company, right?
Okay.
So before I entered, I was having this kind of assumption. Of course, everybody has stereotyping. And then we were thinking, it's American company, so it must kind of like American culture. So let's say something about American culture in the professional setting. In that case, when they have ideas, they will mostly start with something nice,
Okay.
and the critiques will follow up. They will be
Oh,
always
yeah.
like, "Oh, I really like the design you just did."
But-
right? But I mean, it would be nice if you can like do another 3 times more. You know?
Right. That's the
like,
way
change-
we are educated.
yeah. That's like also the American way of communication. That
Right.
they will bring something nice to tell you it's good, you're doing all correctly, but then they will like add a lot of the
Give you a lot of feedback.
what they want
Yeah.
you to do at the end. So in that setting, and I think it's also nice, right? Like you don't get the critiques in your face. So it's just like that. This is stupid, or this is
Right.
garbage, right? Or I just don't like it. You
Yeah.
know, the way American will say something nice about it.
Right.
But sometimes still like it's way better. I would say, in my opinion, it's like a little bit better than how we communicate.
Okay.
Rather just say everything's nice and you don't know what the hell that means.
Right.
American, at least they will say something that they want what they want.
They want to see improvement.
Yeah,
They are
yeah.
willing to give feedback.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
for us, we're more like reserved.
Right.
Well, everything's nice, but then we keep it to ourselves. We gossip about the drawbacks about those projects and shit, in private. We never really openly discuss the things that they can improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's also lead to the third part, which is we are in Germany, but it's an American company.
The
So,
country that's being blunt.
Yeah, the country that is speaking German mostly, and German is famous for being direct, punctuate. I would doubt that whoever bring that up because I've been there for a while, but still,
Okay.
the communication style they have is like way more direct.
Okay.
Simple way to address this. That, for example, in Taiwan or US setting, you say, how's your day? For example, just greeting.
Yeah.
Most of them say, fine, it's good. Yeah, it's nice, right? But in Germany, if you're greeting, how's your day? And on the other side, if the people who receive that, he actually feels really bad or he feels really awful day, he won't say, nah, it's good, it's fine. He will be like, nah, today is horrible.
Oh,
He'll
okay.
just like say that.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Because in their cultural setting, they will say, if it's a bad day for you, what you have to say is good, right? Like,
Right.
Or just say it's bad, it's horrible.
So then the next step would be to, ask why they are feeling bad that day or...
No, yeah, basically that's why they're also being famous for like to complain.
Oh,
But no, they're just express their feelings, like, they're being
Okay.
honest about themselves.
Right.
So, for example, in professional setting, back to where we started, it's like, what do you think about this design? Nah, I don't think that you shouldn't do this and that. You should do something like that.
All right.
And he's being very practical because he wants you. His intention is like, I
Help you
want you to
improve.
become better.
Right.
And also like help us, like if we're on the same project, right?
Right.
They will be like, just do this and do that. They'll be like, nah. Directly. They'll be like, what?
So
Like,
it's
what
just
about the compliment part, right?
like, ouch.
Yeah, we will have this like expectations. But also, Americans, they will be like, yeah, some compliment, critiques, Germans, direct. But they will also compliment just rarely. They'll be like, yeah, that's good. That's right.
So
As
when they say that's good, that means it's really good or...
no, it means like acceptable.
Okay,
It's
acceptable.
like that as they joke about it, the word they say use all the time is alles good, right? It's like
Alles
all
good.
good, alles good.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, all right.
Acceptable.
Yeah.
All right. So when you, American supervisor and a German working together, how's it like?
It's not just like American and German. It's like a lot of people who are Indians, for example,
Okay.
and people are Eastern Europeans, and even people from France, Italy as well. So it's really dynamic.
Like
and
a mixture of...
mixture of everything.
Yeah.
So, for example, we recently have French persons joining the office, and I
Okay.
get to like see them to express the French way
Uh-huh.
of how they think, especially when it comes to the topic of drinking wine versus drinking beer, and
Okay.
then after work, and you should drink before eating meals, something like that, right?
Okay. So when everyone, coming from different background, working together, so how do you guys navigate the communication?
I don't know. It just like it takes time to spend extra time outside of just working, right? Because like in office, for some people, they will try to stick professional.
Mm-hmm.
But like outside of work, that's where you have the chance to know a little bit more about this person
Right.
outside of work. So basically, sometimes we would just like go to the English garden,
Yeah.
do some picnic. We just grab some beers and chill, and then talk about something else beside the works. Right?
Okay. So again, just gather more information about these people that you're working with.
Yeah,
talking to,
it's like
hanging
do
out
more
with.
researches. Like if you really want to build a trust, you want to build a good connection, interpersonal relationship. I think
Right.
that's like you do it step by step. You don't just like, do it once and then you think, oh, good.
Okay, so well, for example, if I'm working in Taiwan, I know how to build relationship with the people I work with.
Mm-hmm.
But in an international setting, how do you build rapport with these people who who basically have different belief system and different way of communicating? You said Americans are being indirect at first, but then giving feedback.
That's only in professional setting, though. You're quoting that will make me being very stereotypical
Okay.
racism
Okay.
comment. But
No, nothing about that.
like this is funny because before I went to Germany, I didn't even like realize that I was doing that stereotypical assumption all the time.
Okay.
But like now, I'm just like, oh, when you're speaking about something that you're saying about how Asian behave or says and how Americans say, you'll be like, it's racism just kicks in, right? Because it's
Okay.
very sensitive.
All right,
Sorry for interrupting. Keep going.
No, it's okay. I just want to understand, and I believe the listeners will be interested in knowing how do we build relationship with people from a diverse background? How to establish rapport with them?
I mean, there's like millions ways of building rapport. But to drop a quick note, how to have a strategy when it comes to communication. The next episode, we're going to invite a professional communicators. He's like working in Europe as well. He has been experiences in this field for almost like 20, 30 years.
Okay.
And he has like a mind map or roadmap
Okay.
to how you could start from strangers and work towards into the direction you want to go for.
So there's actually like a formula for us to.
Well, you can say it's a formula, but as I said, it's very dynamic. So
Okay.
it's kind of like the directions. But you
Okay.
can say it's a formula if you want to
Alright.
like be more scientific.
Wow.
To say, step one, what's just the least two, doesn't work, go back, and then try it again, right? But it's too tired, to be honest. Like, if you want to like think about that, how we're going to communicate all the time.
Okay.
On the other side, it would be nice to have to know. So next episode, we're going to invite this new guest, and he will be sharing the tips or the kind of formula, if you want to say it, about how to use strategy when it comes to professional communication or even just casual communication.
Yeah, I believe that the audience will be looking forward to that. But while you've mentioned a lot about different things working in Germany, so if you were to, provide like 3 to 5 points of takeaway, what are some of the crucial elements you think when you want to work in an international setting?
I would say 3 points is very important.
Okay.
First one is to be very curious. And the reason why is you gotta have the capability of asking why first, right? Why they behave like that and why they talk like that.
Start with why.
Start with why. That's
Yeah.
also my favorite book
Yeah.
from Simon Sinek. But the thing is like be curious is like the key to unlock, explore different perspective, which
Okay.
is super critical for you to deliver your message in a dynamic background. Be curious, and then you started to like try to have some empathy, standing their own feet where they come from. Some people are very good at having the empathy and open-minded to communicate, and some people are just like it takes time for them to learn, and
Okay.
it's not regardless like which situation you are. Having this mentality of being curious all the time is also the first great steps that you can start to work on your communication skills. That was or in the dynamic backgrounds. At least that's how I did. Because like for example, as I mentioned, I don't know anything about coding. I still managed to find myself a co-founder, which is a developer. A lot of people who want to start their own startup, they have a fantastic idea, but they just cannot find developers, or they have to pay someone very expensive to find the developers. And then being able to communicate what's your idea and finding people who want to onboard with you to try to work on the project you're working on, whether regardless it's going to be successful or not. I
Right.
think that process is also very great for you to understand how well you communicate,
Okay.
or at least for myself.
Okay. And the third point.
No, that's just the first point.
Okay,
So the
just-
second point, what I have in my mind is like, you always have to be not afraid to fail.
Okay.
So basically, it's like you don't know the settings. We might have assumptions before we go out there, right?
Right.
He might be a talkative person. He might be a very quiet person.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. Like the key is like you should not be afraid to fail. Just go out, put yourself out there, meet
Okay.
people who are diverse background, or just don't get along with the comfort zones that you already have, because you already have plenty enough in Taiwan, put it that way, right?
So you'll be willing to take risks.
Yeah, taking risks is like so much important, and then there's nothing that will make you learn more by hitting the walls, right?
Okay,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
to say that it's like hitting the wall, the more the better.
Yeah. Learn
Well,
the hard way, definitely.
No, I mean, it's not really learn the hard way. It's like the most practical way for you to explore possibilities. And so being able to push yourself out there, explore. Sometimes you might have a good night, but sometimes you might have a really bad night. Like, it's just like the vibe just don't click, and it's just like, fuck it, I don't care.
Right.
At least I learned something. Just take your example as well. You are from that Canadian girls complain. At the end of the day, it's not affecting you. It might make you still remember the story until
Right.
today.
Right.
But like you,
Probably for the rest of my life as well.
but you are already aware of this happened.
Yeah. Those.
So that leads you to directions that, what should I do better? Right? Maybe you might do better, maybe you might not. And the last point, which is we also mentioned early on, is like to know who you're talking to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Know your audience.
Know your audience. We have a lot of bad habit when it comes to communication. We think that it's all about speaking. No, it's about listening. And how to know your audience perfectly? Just by listening.
Okay.
Just shut up.
Listen attentively.
Attentively.
Yeah.
So there's a biggest difference between hearing and listening, right?
Right.
What is the big difference between hearing and listening?
Well, I'm actually expecting you to explain.
I mean, in your understanding.
Listening is that you hear like a sequence of sounds. You know somebody's talking and you kind of get the gist, but you're not really paying attention to the details or to the emotions when the words are being conveyed.
Okay.
But when you're listening, you are trying to engage. You are listening actively, hoping that, okay, you can form an idea in your mind so that you can respond properly.
Wait. Did you just say listening or you say hearing?
Listening,
Listening. But the first one is hearing.
hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hearing
Yeah.
is like physical. It's like built-in software in our human
Ears,
body.
yeah.
Exactly. That's our reception for
Right.
stuff, right? It's actually, I hear stuff. I hear music, but listen is like awareness of what's going on. So I think knowing your audience better. First step to just trying to listen, do more research, do some research, and then you will starting to figure out that, oh, so what is this person like? And in casual conversation, it's easier because it might be just like this one-on-one. It's like very comfortable. But in professional setting, that's even more challenging because like you got to do a lot of research who you're talking to.
Right.
And that becomes why we say marketing is like so phenomenal, right? Like marketing is not just like spend money and now they're expected that the sales will grow up. It's more or less like try to know who are you talking to and then try to make them believe either your brand, your product, your business, gonna make sure that your sales growth, right?
Yeah, so be curious. That's the first and foremost.
I would say so.
Yeah, so be curious, but then you won't limit yourself. You are willing to take risks, to take a leap into the dark, and finally be
Yes.
a good listener.
I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, I know, but I would say this is how I explore through the time.
Yeah, but sometimes I think the greatest wisdom doesn't lies in something that's so deep for us to understand. Sometimes it lies in those details that we pay attention to in our daily communication and interaction with other people, right? So I think these three are really important. Some students may find it very difficult to put into practice, but still, you're gonna be out there just like you said.
I mean, for your student probably because your students are mostly
based in Taiwan.
based in Taiwan
Yeah.
and how old they are mostly like
Well, university students mostly.
right. So
Yeah.
there's like a social exposed, right? But I believe some of the audience they already been through this journey, and maybe some people who are not because like some people are very good at I don't know computer science, engineering, but they also want to be more social.
Sociable, right? Yes.
Sociable. They want to like meet more people. So this podcast is not about just like specific for people who never have the great chances to communicate with dynamic background. It's more it's just how beautiful it is that you are able to put yourself in the dynamic environment and just see how things goes.
Yeah, and I believe for those who have experience already, they can relate to what you've been talking about. And for those who are yet to become an international communicator, they'll be looking forward to the tips you mentioned, the roadmap.
Well, hopefully. I mean, I will be the host to invite that person. So next time I will shut up more instead of this episode, right? But okay, before we end this, so I will also want to know, Heidi, you are being able to speak in English and you teach English
Yeah,
and you also do work in Canada.
right.
And then so conclude all the experiences you have here or until right now, any things you learned all the way regarding communication or psychologist that you personally think is also helpful you would like to share and then you think that it will be great to keep that in mind besides the point I mentioned.
Well, I think I couldn't agree with you more when you say you have to do some research. When I was, in Canada and I was trying to get my first job, right? I hadn't even done any job in Taiwan. Yeah, I got my first job in Canada. So I definitely need to do a lot of research about the job I'm going to apply to and also the managers I'm going to do the interview with. So I basically I was cramming every day looking for information online. And I even asked some of my friends' friends for their work experience. I was doing all kinds of research, gathering a lot of resources whenever I can and whatever I can get, just to get a clearer picture about what I'm going to, face when I'm dealing with. Yeah, so I think research is definitely one.
Does that help all the times?
If you have time, definitely. But most of the time, you are just dealing with things. You have to play by your ear, right? So you have to be very receptive, and you have to be very flexible. Yeah, you pick up things and then you have to respond right away. So I think you just have to, just like you said, take the risks. Yeah, you cannot limit yourself. You cannot confine yourself to your comfort zone. Yeah, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable to a new environment so that you can have some new input.
But what about the time or the chances that you just don't have time to do the research? Like any stories, something in your back of your mind?
Well, just let the customer complain. You just have to accept the fact that, okay, I'm not perfect, but next time I'm going to do it better.
Right.
Yeah. And in fact, that's not the only customer complaint I get. I
got multiple. But...
Yeah, I got another complaint from another customer. She said that I'm just not professional. I cannot find the product she wants because we have 22 drawers. And that was actually the third day at work for me. So I cannot find that exact product she was looking for. And I got a customer complaint. But then at the end of the day, I would say to myself, well, I'm still learning the ropes. So just complain. So just fuck up. Yeah. Next day you remember which.
It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah. Eventually you'll know which product is located in which drawer, and you'll eventually get there. So no hard feelings for those two complaints.
Of course,
yeah.
No hard feelings. Don't give a F. That's my strategy, right?
Yeah. So just
you
like
don't like it, that's not my problem.
But I mean, trial and error is definitely true. Yeah. Trial and error.
Well, it's like the complaint? Like, is that she complained directly in your face or?
Yeah, she's very upset that day because she got a lot of breakout on her face and she's looking for a professional beauty advisor to help her with skin problems.
Right.
And I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to provide a satisfactory service to her. So she complained right in my face. She said, well, I wanted to speak to your manager. How can they let such an unprofessional beauty advisor to take care of the counter for the whole day? Yeah, my coworker, she was having a day off,
Right.
and my manager wasn't on site, so
It's like the unlucky plus the bad customers.
yeah, they're just like not a lucky
Not
day
bad
for me.
customers, but like unpolite.
Well, but I can see.
But I could see the
she was really upset
complaint, right.
with all those breakout. But eventually, she was invited back to the counter, and our manager serviced her and show her what products suit her best, and her skin really improved a lot. Since that day. So she was really pleased and she also wrote a positive comment online for us.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it turned out well. Yeah.
But like, what's your reaction that when she says, I want to speak to your manager? Did you just panic?
Well, it scared the shit out of me, to be honest. I was like,
Or you just
my
say like,
God.
that's your problem.
No, I
I'm
didn't
the
say
manager.
that. Well, remember I was from Taiwan.
Exactly.
Like the fresh off the boat there, right? So I got scared. I feel a lot of fear and I got so upset. I didn't feel like crying, but still I hold my tears and I was able to
Just like,
respond.
let me find my managers.
No, I would never do that.
All right.
Yeah, you have to be tough enough.
Oh, yeah,
when you're
exactly.
working-
Sometimes
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, you have
fight
to
back.
Right, you have to be a stronger version of yourself. If you want to work in another country. Yeah. So basically, do your research and through trial and error, you'll definitely get better. And just don't take everything personally. That's a learning process for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have the issue with the word professional, right? I do understand what that word stands for, but a lot of the time, professional to me is more like you understand how to behave, how to speak, what to speak in certain scenario, but you are changing yourself accordingly to the scenario, which is also good, right? In some context, you definitely need that to be professional.
Yeah.
But also in some context that you shouldn't be professional all the time. You should be more about yourself, be more authentic. So it's really hard to find the balance, right?
Right.
Like you can say, I don't give a F all the time, which make you very authentic. But sometimes you will find people are complaining, a lot of customer complaints. It's like,
yeah.
right?
But
Like, this person is rude. Like, no, I just don't give a F, right?
But sometimes you may wake up the next day finding that you are already unemployed.
Unemployed,
Yeah, you might
exactly. And that's like, but on the other side, if you're being professional all the time, as my experiences is that those people who are very professional, even when you ask them out to go for a drink or something, they still like want to be very professional and just like, this is so boring. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like we're just here hang out for a good time, and then they will be like, oh, this is not my thing. No, da. Be very polite. And I
Okay.
do know where they come from, but sometimes it might be a little bit. I don't know. For my understanding, it's a little bit turn off.
Yeah.
Like because you just want to, drop off all the professional settings you have in
Right.
your daily life.
Wear a mask.
And then wear a mask. Yeah, everybody is wearing mask. But on the other side, you try to like loosen up, right? Don't be
When you are hanging out with them, you want them to really let their hair down.
right.
Yeah.
Let the head down.
Yeah, just
let
relax.
everything go. Right.
No,
exactly.
no,
Take
I
off all
mean,
your clothes.
Relax and be yourself.
Right. This is the first episode. It's really glad to have you here, Heidi.
Me as well.
It's a really, really rare experiences that we can manage, sit it face to face
Yeah,
in person.
definitely.
To invite you here,
Right.
and I would love to have you back for sure in the future. You can share about the journeys that you have when you are dealing with daily life or after this
Yeah.
podcast, right?
Sure, for sure.
And maybe just like put yourself in the uncomfortable situations.
What?
Like as you said, gotta fail more. So then share some of your cool stories in the future.
Okay, you're gonna buy me a drink before I can talk about those stories.
Yes, I'm gonna buy you lots of beers if you come to Germany.
Sure.
All right, thanks for tuning in, and I'm looking forward for the next episode.
Yeah, definitely.
And hope you guys enjoy this episode. Have a great one.
Bye.